With the advent of radar in World War II, aerial combat changed forever. The coming decades saw tactics, strategies, and air platforms designed, innovated, and invented and evolved to counter the menace of radar. Aircraft like the U-2, MiG-25, and the SR-71 were designed to fly higher and faster, to evade radar. But with the coming of surface-to-air missiles, the effectiveness of even these expensive platforms became quite less. It was only with the advent of true stealth with the F-22 that the radars were rendered ineffective, or at least traditional radars were rendered ineffective. And so started a pursuit of invisibility, and this same pursuit came these pictures, apparently of a sixth generation aircraft, nothing like an F-22 Raptor can even comprehend. But are these aircrafts actually sixth generation? Well, they are far from it, and in this video we'll find out why. The beginnings of stealth technologies can be founded by a paper by a Russian scientist in the 1970s on diffraction. Lockheed Skunk Works used this same paper to design their project Have Blue, which culminated in operational success as the F-117 Nighthawk in '89 in Panama and in the Gulf War. The myth of invulnerability of this aircraft was only shattered when in 1999 an air defense brigade commanded by Colonel Zoltan Dani were able to shoot down one of these aircraft, showing that tactics, training, and strategy could actually counter stealth. But at this point, the F-22, the venerable F-22, was already on its way to induction. The first fifth generation supersonic, supermaneuverable stealth aircraft. And so it spurred the age of stealth. 20 years later, the Russians and the Chinese have their own counterparts to the F-22, the Su-57 and the J-20. And then these pictures were leaked, apparently suggesting that China has finally overtaken the United States in aircraft development. But the categorization of these aircrafts as sixth generation is a mistake. So what exactly is a sixth generation fighter? How do we define a sixth generation fighter? Do these aircrafts have countermeasures against the ever-evolving satellite tracking, surveillance, and imaging technologies? Do these aircraft have countermeasures against acoustic sensors that are getting evolved every day? Do these aircrafts have countermeasures against long-range thermal cameras and IRSTs? What is their thermal signatures? Do they have variable cycle engines? Do they have scramjets so they can go beyond Mach 4? The answer to these questions is that we don't know, because of the simple and very uncomplicated fact, because the technologies that this aircraft have to be counter are in flux or in transition. So, unless those technologies or the state of technological advancement of those technologies are known, we cannot define these aircrafts to be sixth generation. The other argument against calling these aircraft sixth generation is the lack of experience of the PLAAF, the People's Liberation Army Air Force. Unlike the United States, which has ample experience in various conventional wars, the Chinese army lacks any experience. The venerable F-22 was not just an aircraft, it was the culmination and the conclusion of all the lessons, tactical, strategic, scientific, and technological, learned over the years in the Cold War. It was an aircraft that could defeat anything that the adversary had to offer. So calling an aircraft sixth generation coming from an air force which is one of the most inexperienced air force in the world, and the last proper air war they fought was in Korea. To put that into context, it was 70 years ago. The PLAAF only acquired night fighting abilities in the early 19s, and that was even more true for the Western Theater Command of this force. And then there is the context of ever-advancing rocket technology. With the advent of heavy lift rockets like the next generation launch vehicle of the Indian Space Research Organization, what guarantee do the Chinese have that we won't slung a whole 10-ton radar into low Earth orbit? Or deploy acoustic sensors and long-range thermal cameras all over the Himalayas? The aircraft is only as good as its countermeasures. But if we do not know what measures it has to counter, how can we exactly call this a 6th generation aircraft? Now you would tell me that how exactly it is then that the Chinese are able to deploy full-fledged aircraft seemingly flying in the Chinese skies. The answer is simple. It is how stealth aircrafts are made. Unlike the aircrafts of the yesteryears, where new sensors or new munitions like EODAS or missile warning systems, IRSTs, and any other kind of munition could be patched on to the aircraft on the outer body, essentially being bolted on, and I am oversimplifying here, but that cannot be done to a stealth aircraft. The outer body of the aircraft is shaped, its aerodynamic capabilities, its disadvantages, advantages, everything has to be set in stone before anything has to be done under it. Because stealth means smooth, various carbon composites and metamaterials have to be applied to the outer body of the aircraft. So what you see flying in the Chinese skies are not in fact 6th generation aircrafts. They are shells of 6th generation aircraft with probably WS-10s or WS-21 engines, which are being flown to evaluate their capabilities in aerodynamic context. Now, this is not to say that I will discount the ability of the Chinese to create an actual 6th generation aircraft, whatever the definition we arrive at after 5 to 6 years. It actually falls in the ethos of the Chinese: gain experience with what you have so you can derive wisdom from it for the future. The other important question in this conversation is how exactly does a nation infamous for hiding everything and anything from the world manage to leak aircraft that are envisioned to be their most futuristic aircrafts? At this point, calling these aircraft 6th generation is just helping the Chinese create one of the most complex military psychological operations in the world. If a 6th generation aircraft came from the Americans, it was borderline believable because exactly the reason what I have discussed in the video. They have experience in the battlefield. But when it comes from the Chinese, calling such aircraft 6th generation is just illogical and unreasonable. In YouTube, it is quite easy to get manipulated, especially by people who act as intellectuals, and especially in military matters. So it is important that your source for all military analysis is based in facts and research. And so go ahead and subscribe to Liquid Rocket Wolves. We hope you liked this video, and in the next video we will get into how these aircrafts, these futuristic looking aircrafts that are supposedly 6th generation, came to be. See you in the next video. Subscribe, like, comment and share definitely. Goodbye. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.